And I'm Guy. And this is your home for everything Alberta Independence, broadcasting live Monday through Saturday. Usually at 5 p.m. We're a little later today. We had a few things to do. Tomorrow, we're going to be on at 12 noon. Again, we have some prior engagements.
But first of all, thank you so much for joining us today, especially with this change of time. I did try to post it on X and on our community notes. You can all, or community posts, whatever it's called. You can always see if we're changing the time, especially if it's like a day like today where it was a little bit impromptu. You can always find out there if we're canceling or if something happened. But we should be on every day, Monday through Saturday at 5 p.m. usually. Yeah. Mountain time, I will say. Also, please don't forget to subscribe. It is what helps us out the most. Also, we try to read most of your comments live after each segment that we have. Otherwise, we always pause the show for super chats. They also help us out a lot. So if you feel so inclined, you can always do that too. And we have memberships.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of big news today. Again, Carney and Trump in the headlines. And we're going to lead off with that, I think, at the G7.
But first of all, let me say hello to Primors 007 that says, Hola Nat y Guy, late start today, or am I missing news? Both, sort of, because I did post it, but I guess not a lot of people saw it. But thank you to everybody that is here.
Yeah,
still.
Absolutely.
And Satius Maximus says cheers. Cheers. Thank you for being here as well. So should we start?
Yeah, let's go right into breaking news if we can. And it's Mark Carney and the G7, I think.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Extra, extra, read all about it.
And yeah, let's start with some interesting comments from the G7. Here from Bradshaw says, quote, I agree there wouldn't be a quote unquote war if Russia was still in the G7, formerly G8. So it makes you wonder, was this war planned?
Well, and I've been talking a lot about this, an alliance with Russia and the United States, potentially building a bridge from Alaska to Russia would be a fantastic idea under the sea with the Boring Group. It's the idea has been pitched. It would be fantastic if that did happen. That would kind of isolate China and be absolutely fantastic for Canada as well, because that highway would run right through Canada to the United States. It would increase international trade. It would be fantastic for Europe. If Europe wants to lift itself up, it's going to have to put its differences with Russia aside. A lot of people don't know the intricacies of what happened to European manufacturing, but about 4 years ago, I would say about 6 years ago, but 4 years ago, European manufacturing really hollowed itself out. Most of it has moved to the United States because of energy prices. Also, a lot of it has also fled to China. But let's see what Trump had to say here.
Together very well. I look forward to that. The G7 used to be the G8. Barack Obama and a person named Trudeau didn't want to have Russia in. And I would say that that was a mistake, because I think you wouldn't have a war right now if you had Russia in. And you wouldn't have a war right now if Trump were president 4 years ago. But it didn't work out that way. But it used to be the G8. And now it's, I guess, what's that, 8 years ago, it switched over. They threw Russia out, which I claimed was a very big mistake. Even though I wasn't in politics then, I was very loud about it. It was a mistake in that you spend so much time talking about Russia, and he's no longer at the table. So it makes life more complicated. But you wouldn't have had the war. Other than that, I think we're going to accomplish a lot. Together very well.
Yeah.
You could see him literally crapping his pants.
Well, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, because directly after that, he went in putting more sanctions on Russia. I think Trump might have known about that. That's why he wanted the camera on both of them. That's why Carney looked really shaken there, I think.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Russia was the weakest of the three major world powers, which was Russia, China, and the United States. They had a great relationship with Europe overall as far as it came to energy. Europe was the big winner in that relationship. Russia has a new trading partner with China now. It's a damn shame what's happened to European and Russian relations. There's a lot of chatter within conservative circles within Europe that they need to repair that relationship with Russia if they want to rebuild their manufacturing and their self-sufficiency.
However, as you were mentioning, yes, the Globe and Mail says, quote, Carney announces new sanctions on Russia. Prime Minister Carney has announced that Canada will impose new sanctions against Russia as its war wages on.
Well, yeah, and I did not grab the clip from this because it came out later in the day and we were actually out at IKEA. But the clip for this was Mark Carney just going hard at Russia, saying Ukraine is going to win this war no matter what. Doesn't matter how long it takes, blah, 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 blah. Ultimately, the Russia-European relationship is crucially important. If that doesn't happen, the Russia-China relationship is going to get much stronger as well.
Mm-hmm. And again, I mean, there is a reason why the rest of the G7, but especially Europe and Carney, want this war to continue on. And we've been talking about this for basically ever since it started, because that's kind of when we started the channel too.
Yeah, there had been war plans almost a decade old now that Europe has wanted to go into Russia and take the $79 trillion and divide it up into different regions that they would pass out amongst America and their other European allies. $79 trillion would put Europe on top again. But what's happened in Ukraine has really showed Europe it's going to be a tough nut to crack. And I don't think Europe can actually win that, especially without America backing them. And Trump's not going to back it. And if J.D. Vance wins, he's not going to back that either. He's not going to fight that war for them. And Europe, for the most part, does not have a real military. They're currently trying to build it, but every time they do something, it falls apart. Their newest aviation jet for their newest generation jet fighter just got canceled. They've been working on that for 9 years. So overall, I don't think it's looking that good for Europe.
Unless, again, they can somehow convince even a dwindling Democratic Party to actually win eventually and then get and restore what they were planning to do all along.
Well, I think the backup strategy is Canada. Russia and Canada are very similar in a lot of different things, whether it's landmass, natural resources, lumber, water, things like that. If Europe can't get Russia, maybe they're thinking, well, we'll ally with Canada. Mark Carney runs that, and then we'll share the proceeds amongst the globalists if we can federalize those natural resources.
But now let's look at, apparently there was a hot mic as well. Ryan Gertison says, quote, Trump and Carney were caught on a hot mic moment at the G7. Carney was heard to try to reassure Trump that Chinese EVs entering Canada aren't going to be a problem because they put a cap on how many can enter. I guess reassuring him that they won't be able to dominate the market.
And this is absolutely insane. You can you can transparently see the relationship from Carney's point of view here. He's going to Trump, basically begging him not to get angry. He's just going to put a limit on Chinese EVs. Trump is concerned about major global world plays here right now. He's not even concerned about Canada. I think after the midterms, that's when he's really going to start focusing in on Canada. But there's a war going on right now between the United States, Donald Trump, and the globalists within Europe. And Carney is they're putting him up as the front man to take the brunt of a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump also factoring into a second hot mic incident, this one involving Mark Carney on what has been a thorny political issue between our two countries, Chinese EVs.
Yeah, this is something that's happened in the past hour. David, there's a lunch session to deal with the Iran war issue. And in the bit where the camera is allowed in as they're all getting in before the formal conversation starts, you can see an image of Donald Trump sitting down, Mark Carney leaning in to sort of talk into his ear. And he seems to be trying to reassure the president on the deal that he struck with China to allow Chinese vehicles into the Canadian market in return for tariffs being lifted on agricultural products and seafood. We can hear him saying to the president, it's less than 3% of our cars, 49,000 cars. We put a cap, a hard cap. I thought you would like that. And Trump says, that's good. I like that. But this is a real difficult issue for the Americans. They do not want China getting entry into the car market at all in North America. Carney's reassurance there that they've done with a quota system, a hard cap of 49,000 vehicles, which is about 3% of the Canadian annual auto sales market. He makes the point that the cap is effective. Europe and others tried to deal with China with tariffs, and China just ate the cost. It's a non-market economy. It's state-driven. They'll pay a price to get market dominance and market saturation. And now you have Europe partnering directly with China to build cars here, and they've taken
and it's such a petty deal. It's not worth Mark Carney even allowing Chinese EVs into the country. Mm-hmm. This is going to be the biggest trade deal for Canada if they can even pull it off. At this point, it almost looks like he's trying to sabotage the deal. Maybe he wants to sabotage it, call a state of national emergency, and then federalize natural resources. That seems to be, I think, the secondary game plan if Trump cancels the USMCA.
And again, I mean, we have seen, however, other countries react to Trump coming in and to ways in which all of these trade deals are being done. With Mexico, for example, capping a lot of the Chinese EVs that were coming in, with imposing 75% and higher tariffs on a market that was booming for the past 4 years when they were allowed in and when they didn't have any sort of sanctions or trying to make any sort of deal with the U.S. And now we are seeing that dwindling as well here.
Yeah, Mexico is taking completely the opposite stance, and it's very interesting to watch the Mexico leader, Claudia Sheinbaum, who's very far leftist, just as much as Mark Carney. She's taking a completely different strategy here, and it's benefiting Mexico immensely.
But now let's go to your comments, and then Alberta, stay free.
Yeah.
Silverfeet says, hi, hello, how are you? Todd says, hi, folks. And Todd also says, only guy in the room that can't stand up straight, that being Carney. Because again, I think something was moving in his intestines. Lyle Norman says, Carney really does look like Mr. Burns off The Simpsons.
Yeah, he walks around like this.
Plus, he's short. I think he's kind of short, too.
Well,
I mean,
compared
his
to-
wife is taller.
Compared to Trump.
His wife. Todd says, I've never wanted Krapita to support a corrupt war in Ukraine. It's for wealth transferring our money only. Yeah, it's a giant laundry machine.
Absolutely. And I mean, I don't know why they're so insistent on this war with Russia. They keep moving east. They said not one more step east. This war has been in the making for decades now, and it's not going to help anybody. I mean, I understand it from the European point of view. This has been the strategy to take over Russia and take their natural resources, but it does not look like it's going to be an easy target. You might as well ally with them, get cheap energy, bring your manufacturing back, and actually have something to sell the world, because right now they have absolutely nothing. They shut down their nuclear power plants. They've reopened their coal plants. Their manufacturing has left for China as well as the US. Europe has absolutely nothing except for banking. And what are they going to do? Print money and make digital currency? And that's supposed to bring them into the next decade?
Essentially that, or again, partnering with Canada and using Canada's newly nationalized natural resources. Todd says, did you see that video of the Ukraine military dragging that poor Ukrainian from his home to go to the front lines? Ukrainians don't even want anything to do with it.
Yeah, I don't talk much about the Ukraine war, but I've been paying very, very close attention from the very beginning on a daily basis. I watch about an hour of content tracking it. I mean, a lot of Americans and Westerners just don't understand. Russia's winning along the complete front line. Every day they're making small gains. Now, they're not huge gains, but every day they're moving forward. And it's not going to end well. They just need a negotiated truce at this point. Russia put a pretty fair deal on the table. I'm surprised the Europeans didn't take it. I think they just want to wait Trump out, keep the war going. They're hoping the next president comes in and will fully back their war on the ground against Russia.
Todd says the war is disgusting, and same with those who support it. And again, those that might not understand it, support it just from ideological reasons, but those that support it because of what it could actually do for Europe and for the powers that were losing power and have continued losing power, but could gain more if for some reason they're able to continue managing this, then This is not a war that Ukrainians even want to fight. I know a lot of Ukrainian refugees that were living in Vancouver. I talk to them on a regular basis. They do not want to be fighting this war. This is the European Union's war here. Saltius Maximus says, creepy Minister Burns standing on the side. Yeah. And says, I watch Daily Map, kind of like you, Daily Map battle updates on Ukraine.
I do
Guess
as well.
what? Ukraine is losing territory daily, which is exactly what you just said.
Yeah, I watch a lot of the Duran as well as Daily Map battles. The Duran's not good for every subject, but when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war, they're an absolute fantastic source.
And Saltius also says Ukraine is money laundering scheme. Yeah, basically. And says over 50% of those electric cars will just be Teslas. We were getting those cars before.
Yeah, exactly. And Tesla is the best electric car that's made right now.
And Beulah, hello, thank you for being here. Says watching from Innisfail, Alberta. Sorry. But speaking of Alberta, let's go to Alberta Stay Free.
Sweet home Alberta, where the roots run deep and the money trees grow.
And let's start with this from Jason Levine saying, quote, Alberta's future tour. What should a future constitution of Alberta look like? We're taking the conversation on the road, and we want to hear directly from Albertans. Join Matthew Rowley, Dennis Kama, and Bruce Party for a series of public input forums where your ideas, concerns, comments, and recommendations help shape the discussion. In Edmonton, it will be happening on June 29th, on Red Deer, June 30th, and Calgary, July 2nd.
Yeah, and this was absolutely fantastic. I watched, they had a online content where they kind of had this debate amongst the three of them. It was some of the best content that I had watched. This really gets people talking. It really gets people thinking what's possible, what's not possible. Why are we submitting to these kind of this tax regime of the Canadian government? There should be no taxes on any future citizens of Alberta. All tax revenue should come from natural resources and large to mid-sized corporations, not small businesses. We want families owning small businesses in Alberta. I pitched this idea yesterday, and I listed the countries that had natural resources and have no taxes on their citizens. One of the responses I had back from that was, oh, but they have slave labor. What does one have to do with the other? So I got another list of countries here that don't have slave labor. That's Monaco, the British Virgin Islands, Bermuda, the Cayman Islands, and there's a slew of other ones I got as well. No taxes on citizens. The Alberta economy can support that, no problem. And the amount of infrastructure the natural resource sector will be able to provide to Alberta. Alberta will be one of the richest countries in the world, and it should benefit their citizens first.
And these kinds of events are very important. And we have been talking about how important it is as engaged citizens. And just by watching shows regarding Alberta independence or wanting to know what's going on, you're already engaged. But being able to go to these and actually have your input heard or your questions answered is also extremely important. So thank you to Jason Levine and Matthew Rowley, Dennis Kalma, and Bruce Party for doing this as well.
Well, you're going to want to go down to the actual ad there.
It says this is not a presentation. This is not a debate. An opportunity for Albertans to participate in one of the most important conversations about Alberta's future. And this is important as well, as tickets are by donation, seating is limited, and interest has been extremely high, which is great.
Yeah, and if people don't know, these are the three major constitutional proposals. One of the constitutional proposals is actually based on the Canadian Westminster system, which I don't personally like, but I will say this, after listening to him, I think if it does go to a vote, his proposal might have the greatest chance because everybody that's going to vote against independence is going to vote in a big block for that Westminster system, which will give it a lot of votes if it goes to some kind of constitutional vote. The middle one is the 1776 American-style Constitution, which I think I like. It's better than the Westminster Canadian system, but my favorite is Bruce Party's system. And we actually interviewed Bruce Party in depth, and all of our questions revolved around his constitutional proposals. We were trying to poke holes in it because we did like that system the best.
Yes. And again, if you want, the tickets are by donation. And if you want to go find some or more information, you can go to thelevineshow.com/TPA or THELAVIGNESHOW.com/TPA.
Absolutely.
And again, I think it's wonderful to be able to continue to have these conversations. And especially, it also helps give an air of moving forward.
Yeah.
Of, yes, this is happening. We're going to continue to have the conversations about what we're going to do with our constitution, how we want to form our government, how we want to start the birth of a nation. And I think this also helps push people towards, yes, we have to continue moving forward and we have to continue to engage with this and not let it be 3 more years, 4 more years. Oh, now this... there's this blockage. Now there's this. They're saying we can't do it because of this reason. No, we're going to do it. Period.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I pitched it yesterday. I'm going to keep pitching this idea. Why are we not saying no taxes on any future citizens of a free and independent Alberta? Every other country that has even far more limited natural resources than Alberta is doing it. Alberta, this is the way to pitch it. Even Liberals, because of the economic state of Canada, would vote for a free and independent Alberta if there was a guarantee of no tax on citizens. And we explain how are we actually going to build the infrastructure, and that's through natural resource development and taxes on natural resources, as well as mid to large businesses. This is how a lot of other countries do it. There's also other models. I mean, Ron DeSantis right now is attempting to take off all property taxes on property at a minimum. That's what should be happening in a lot of places around the world. Before the World War, there was no taxes on people in the United States and a lot of other countries, and then they brought it in, and then it expanded out from there, and it never stopped expanding. Mm-hmm. Canada is one of the most taxed onerous countries in the world, and it needs to stop. And if we say no taxes on citizens and we stick to that promise and we lay it out and map it out how that is possible, there's nothing the Canadian government can argue back with that. What are they going to say? Oh, we're going to tax you less? They're arguing about taking taxes off of used cars, not taxes off on all citizens for everything.
Exactly. That would be a pipe dream. But again, Bruce Party already has been starting to propose all of this and shape all of this. So go, if you can, please do go to speak with them and to see them speak directly as well. And next, John Alberta Patriot says, great running into Tommy Temper's show and many other Alberta Patriots in Spruce Grove while people were showing up to collect Alberta independence signs. So that's great. This is exactly what we were talking about. Movement grows when people stop waiting for someone else to do the work. And I think that is a very important sentiment right there.
Well, and he goes a little bit into this, and he says the hat's a conversation starter, and that's exactly right. Wearing hats and shirts that say Alberta Independence is a great way to get conversations started. It can be a little hard trying to approach somebody to talk about independence, but if they approach you because they see your hat or shirt, this is a great way to spread the message.
I'm doing all of St. Albert. Like I'm going all like you know, this hat, John, is amazing. I get a lot of attention. Like my grandkids that go to swimming and everywhere I go in St. Albert, I get attention. Grocery store, swimming pool, right? And you know what, John? 90% of them are on board. All the ones that, it's way bigger than what people think.
Oh, this is way bigger than what people think.
Way bigger, John. Yeah. So because you know, like St. Albert is, you know, it's more the wool.
Come on.
Yeah, and we might start freezing up there. And that's a shame.
It's going to discourage us, right? Like they release a fake poll. They're like, oh, support is coming down. And then I guess, okay. Then they leave a comment. They're like, you're never going to win. I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just go home and pout.
Yeah, right? But we don't, right?
No.
We don't pout.
No.
We're all having fun.
Yeah.
We're laughing. We're having fun.
Yeah.
And they're not. They're not having fun.
Yeah. This is honestly the best experience, like being part of this movement. Like so many good people here. So many good people.
Change. That's all we want is change. We're just, 10 years of the same thing, and we're not seeing anything different.
100 years.
Yeah.
You know, I have a saying: if you keep doing what you've always done, you will always get what you've always gotten.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I've taught that
And
to
we
my
can leave
kids.
it there. And I will say, I do agree with that a lot. And a lot of people are starting to look into other independence movements around the world and realizing we don't even need a binding vote. If we have this non-binding referendum and we can win it by 55 or 60%, and then we take over the UCP and we have a leader within the UCP that's not Danielle Smith that actually believes in independence, we can actually declare unilateral independence at that point. And as long as we're recognized by the United States as well as a couple other countries, which would be other countries most likely in the Shield of the Americas, that's all we actually need. And that's what a lot of other countries actually got, where they were able to get their independence through non-binding referendums.
And again, being able to start talking about that and having those conversations as well. I mean, there are other measures and there's other ways we can do this right now. Yes, we were trying to go through the legal path, but where we see there's not actually a path there. They just put it in there to say and to quell Quebec at the time, but it's not looking like that's going to be as useful as we see it right now.
They want to draw out this timeline, and they're already telling us 2.5 to 3 years. And then once we pose the binding question, they're going to have a challenge to that. That's going to be another 3 years. We have to have this binding referendum, and we have to start taking over the UCP, get a leader in there that will call a unilateral independence, attempt to call a binding referendum, but if the Canadian government isn't going to do that in an expedient fashion, we actually don't need that. We just have to make sure we go on the alternative path after October 19th, which would be taking over the UCP and having a leadership review.
But that doesn't mean that this October 19th vote isn't important, because as you said, if we're able to get 51, 55 or a number that will actually maybe wake some more people up and actually see it as more of a possibility for actual independence, then that also really helps. And again, helps put that into the public sentiment too.
Absolutely.
And to be able to get those numbers right now, what we can do is also talk about, well, this can send a message aspect of it. Like, yes, we can use this to send a message, but that just means there's going to be more votes for yes than for no in the end.
Yeah, a lot of the countries that actually got independence had no legal pathway in their constitutions or within the countries, yet they were able to get independence through having a non-binding vote and then having two to three other countries recognize them on the international stage. We already have other countries ready to recognize us if we can win the vote on October 19th. That's step one. So let's get people out for October 19th and then worry about that leadership review for Danielle Smith and taking over the UCP.
But next, Western Standard says, quote, Alberta Rodeo cancels parade after a decision about an Alberta-themed float leads to volunteers facing quote-unquote harassment.
Yeah, I had a longer link to this one, I believe. Maybe you can click into it and see what happens there. I have to
find it. Yeah.
It may have been one of the later stories I grabbed as well.
Okay, we don't have access, but do you want me to look for it?
No, it's fine. Okay. Well, why don't we leave that? I believe I grabbed that story a second time, and I believe Jason Levine explained it absolutely in depth.
Speaking of Jason Levine, though, however, Jason Levine says, quote, the undecided in Alberta will decide the future of Alberta. So right now for stay, it's 47.9%. For leave, it's 40.9%. And undecided is 11.2%. Civil conversations and respectful dialogue is key. But I would also say pushing a little bit more and stop being so Canadian as well is important at this moment. And to really put all the cards on the table and stop mincing words, I think, as much as have been minced right now.
Yeah, and it's fun if some people want to do that. I think getting a bit more of a harder edge, we're going to start making some shorter content, and maybe in about a month here, that has a little bit more of an edge. Hopefully appeals to a bit more of a younger audience as well. But I would say this, 40.9% versus 47.9%. I think we actually win that vote because our side is the motivated side that's going to make sure they go to that polling booth. I think that 40% translates to about 55%. Now, I don't want to guarantee that, and we need to still work as hard as we can to make sure that we actually are winning in these polls as well. That would be a best case scenario. But even where we're standing right now today looks pretty damn good to me.
And again, being able to reach those voters that might, and again, today we had that interview with Ali Continental come out, the independent reporter. He's a pretty young person, and he was telling us about he went to the universities in Alberta to talk to the youth and heard them say, well, I don't vote because it's all the same. It doesn't matter. So a lot of them are already coming at this from a perspective of, well, this won't change anything. So what's the point? If you can get them to actually see how it can change and where the path leads and how the path is actually there, and this time it will be affected because this is very different from when they were being convinced to vote for Poilievre, for example, then I think we can gain a lot. That number can change pretty quickly, too.
Oh, absolutely. And only about 60% of people actually vote in elections. I think we're going to have a 90 to 95% turnout on the actual Leave side or the independent side.
But now let's go to your comments and then into Alberta politics. Todd says, Grant Abram.
Oh, I don't know.
Not sure what that means. And Pete says, too bad it's raining Saturday in Sundre. For the parade,
yeah.
I guess. And Bilber says, hola, all Republicans. Hola, thank you for being here. Cindy Melnick, hello, says, Sundre's canceled their parade due to Alberta flags, but it's our province. It's a provincial flag. Exactly.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. I think we have an article on it in a bit. We're going to talk about it more in depth because they really break down what happened there. It originally got approved, then they said they were having hate calls and emails and things like that, so they canceled it. This is going to be the strategy all the way along. Anytime we try to have a public event, they're going to try to get the venue to cancel on us, and that's what they did in the States over and over and over. Tim Pool fell victim to this. A lot of other content creators that were trying to do live events fell victim to this as well. But this is Canada. That strategy is going to work very, very easily. A few phone calls is going to get a cancellation of the venue.
So you just continue pushing.
Yeah, we got to continue pushing, and we got to think outside of the box as well. We're going to have to probably do a lot of outdoor events, not in venues.
True. Sanchez Maximus says, blue wave. Yes.
Yeah.
Bluer than ever. And DeBilver says, Cindy, that is crazy. Yes, it is. But again, that's that easy right now to manipulate the sentiment within, I would say, Canada, or those that still believe in Canada that are within Alberta. Sanchez Maximus says, UCP with a clear independence mandate would accelerate independence. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, October 19th needs to be the main focus. But after October 19th, I think that's as far as we actually need to go as far as a vote goes. After that, we need to get the UCP, a leadership review, get somebody in there that's supportive of independence. And then if the Canadian government wants to try to hold up an actual binding referendum, let's just go with the non-binding results and declare unilateral independence at that point.
DeBilver says we should all walk with Alberta flags. Yeah. And Cindy, speaking of, says they're asking for a slow roll through Sundre for whoever can make it.
That would be fantastic.
Again, you're outside. They can't say anything. And Beulah says, oh, okay, now we know. Beulah says Grant Abram ran as an independent in Alberta. I think it was federal. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Now I remember.
Well, and I will say, Mitch Sylvester was trying to organize some outdoor events, and they won't give him permits or anything else like that. So we may have to have unofficial events outside that aren't organized directly from any organization, but we can just call them get-togethers, and it will be thousands of people getting together in Calgary and Edmonton to wave their Alberta flags. I mean, they're not going to give us any kind of permit or anything else we need to hold a legal event. So we're going to have to think outside the box on this one, but make sure we don't break the law at the same time.
True. And Sanchez Maximus says, Berta Proud Dad just did a video on the Sundre Parade. And I believe Derek from the Unhinged Fringe.
Yeah. Unacceptable French.
Unacceptable. I didn't say anything. Thank you. It's been a long day. You made me walk all over the place to go to a park.
Well, we had our 8-year anniversary today,
Yes.
so.
But his way of celebrating was making me exercise.
Well, we took a nice walk in the park, and then we went for meatballs at
At IKEA, because we had to pick up a lounge.
Yeah.
Very romantic.
Well, the soft serve at IKEA, if you haven't had it, they're absolutely amazing. Best soft serve I've ever had.
You're like a soft serve connoisseur,
I love
because
it.
you go to McDonald's, Burger King, and then you kind of test them all out. Apparently now he found his favorite one.
Yeah.
And Chris too, hello, says, hello dears, Alberta Independence. Let's effing go. Yes, let's. And says, good day to everyone else except the jibber jabber above. Yes, we always, if you're on RUMBLE and see that person commenting, I haven't found a way to block him, but I mean, thank you for being here. Thank you for the view as well. But now, speaking of, let's go to Alberta politics while we're at it.
He doesn't discuss federal politics. He only concerns himself with Alberta's independence.
Let's start with this from Dan Williams saying, quote, Canada is a good place. Our history is something we should be proud of, not ashamed of. We were founded by the most proud and enterprising people on earth. After decades of elites telling average Canadians that our country is fundamentally evil, oppressive, and hateful, it's now time to unapologetically defend our country, our shared history, and Alberta's place.
Well, he's got about half of this right. The first half is a bunch of BS, but I actually paired this clip with the next article we have as well. It's going to be a veteran talking about how he no longer recognizes Canada, and it's failed him.
Canada's DNA is not destined to be a people that reject nation building. What our forefathers passed down to us is beautiful. Canada is fundamentally not an evil, oppressive, and hateful place, despite what many narratives have said. And Albertans, however they feel in this upcoming question of separation, they know that Canada was built as a good place, a good country.
It doesn't matter what it was built on. Let's hear about where it is today. And I think he may even go into that himself. So he's contradicting himself in his own little speech here.
Accomplished incredible things. But instead, they've been told a narrative for decades now, keeping flags at half-mast, statues being torn down, lyrics changed for political correctness rather than patriotic pride. Systemic appointments to the Supreme Court, to the Senate, and even Ministers of Environment, methodically opposing the West and our interests, trying to strangle the full expression of Alberta within Confederation.
And he got it right on the second part. And the problem is that second part has been well over a decade now. The founding and the way Canada has treated the West from its founding was rotten to its absolute core. It treats Alberta and a lot of Western Canada like
what? Well, and it's going to continue being that same way as well. Like if Alberta stays within Canada, there is no way to rescue that history. There is no way to continue, because they'll continue with the plans and with the ways that things have been structured for the past 20, 30 years.
Oh, a resource colony is the words I was looking for. I kept thinking colonization. I was like, no, resource colony.
Yes.
Yeah, they're treating Alberta like a resource colony, and they always have. And that's the way they set up the system to benefit the Laurentian elites and the individuals in Ottawa. Mm-hmm. And we've had enough of it.
And as many flowery words as can be thrown out, and as much half-truths that can be said, again, there is no changing that if you want Alberta to remain within Confederation, because it'll continue happening. It's like staying with not to use this, I hate using this analogy, but staying with the abuser.
Well, he's against Alberta independence, and an individual. We've showed him a few times on the channel, but he knows exactly why we want to leave, because he's saying they've been trying to erase the history, put the flags at half-mast, putting up the LGBTQ flag, while they disrespect the Alberta flag, as well as other provincial and even the Canadian flag at times. During the truckers' convoy, it was seen as a sign of terrorism if you had the Canadian flag at that point. Now, it's funny how the Liberals have taken back that symbol or that flag and turned it into a flag for National Socialism, which is ridiculous.
Well, maybe that was the intended purpose initially when Pierre Trudeau changed the flag in the first place. Mm-hmm. But speaking of, Matthew Rowley says, quote, listen to this, a veteran telling us that the Canada he fought for doesn't exist anymore, which is something we've been saying every time we get that specific argument thrown at us, saying, oh, my forefathers did not fight for this. There are values and identities that used to be ours that Ottawa destroyed. To preserve the old Canada, we must leave.
And getting this veteran on camera and other veterans like him on camera in a very cinematic way, or get somebody that actually knows how to film an interview very good, would be a very powerful message that we could throw out on social media.
One of the things we keep hearing about is this term moral injury. And that's one of these cases where it can either be a very large, like 30,000 foot problem, or it can be like right in somebody's individual life. did we do the right thing? Are we part of the good guys? These kinds of questions. And I hear often people say they don't recognize Canada anymore. Do you think that that's part of the moral injury? Like people went to fight for a country and come back and don't recognize the country they return to?
Well, since you asked the question, it's not going to be a popular opinion, but I don't believe in Canada anymore. Yeah, I'm an Albertan and I want to leave.
And you would say that you fought for something that...
I loved Canada. Yeah. I believed in Canada until a point. Yeah. And again, I know it's not going to be popular with, I don't know, this side of the table, I guess, but the last decade has, no, that's not what I fought for. The country I'm watching, and this is my personal opinion, but it is, I've heard this reflected from a lot of my fellow vets that they don't recognize, like, let's take Afghanistan, for example. The Canada we knew and we went to go, we believed what we were fighting. I believed in what we were fighting for in Afghanistan. And we watched it retaken by the Taliban and go right back the way it was. And then I come back here and, our government's ashamed to even put up a war memorial for Afghan vets.
And you can leave it there. But absolutely fantastic testimony from that veteran. We need to get more testimonies from veterans, and we need to put that out on social media, because the betrayal of the Canadian government has pushed a lot of people to the edge where we no longer want to be part of Canada. We no longer see ourselves as Canadians. Most people or a large portion of people that live in Alberta see themselves as Albertans first, not Canadians.
And Mike Freedom Honey does have that vets group that I'm sure not all of them would want to be public, but himself as well speaking out about him being a vet and not recognizing Canada anymore and fighting for independence and not believing in the flag that he fought under anymore, and that how unfortunate that is as well. But I'm sure he might know some other people that can also be put on camera.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And lastly, Liam Out Loud, I like him, says, the internet has given us a direct view into endless evil. Many struggle to make sense of how people can do such terrible things. The three roads that lead a man to evil are: 1, false gods.
Well, and it seems like these are the three roads National Canada seems to be going down, and a lot of the population in National Canada seems to be going down. Alberta has a different foundation and a different way of seeing the world, where it is probably the heart of Christianity within Canada, and that's what's holding a lot of these other false ideologies off, or these false paths, I guess you would say.
We live in an era of unlimited access to information. Some of that is a gift, but it has also given us a direct, unbroken view into horror and evil. Cities flattened on a screen, the curtain pulled back on Epstein files, a steady feed of stories you once thought belonged only to your nightmares. Some shut it off and pretend it isn't there. Others stare into the abyss until it stares back, then become scarred and cynical. But it has always been this way. 2,000 years before Epstein, there was Caligula, who spent 7 years on Capri, engaged in sadism and cruelty. No matter the era, people so evil that rationality refuses to explain them have always existed. As far as I can tell, there are 3 roads to evil: worshipping the wrong things, succumbing to ideology, and becoming so bitter that you resent life itself. First, worshipping the wrong things. A certain kind of person sets wealth, lust, power, and status as his highest values and will do anything to obtain them. He lies, cheats, and steals for more sex, control, fame, and money. Once he has them, he believes morality no longer applies to him. He stands above these silly guardrails. Laws are for the weak, he says, while counting himself among the strong who dictate them. Everyone else becomes an instrument. Second, ideology. A certain kind of person, on stepping away from a religious worldview, fills the vacuum with ideology. God no longer works in mysterious ways. Instead, he holds a system that tells him exactly why things are the way they are and how they ought to be. He casts himself as scientific. The world is the way it is because of an intelligible chain of cause and effect. The communists held it to be class struggle. The Nazis, genetic determinism. The ideologue believes he is entitled to seize that chain, choosing new causes, so the world is remolded in his ideology's image. People become cogs in machines, swapped out or sacrificed in the pursuit of utopia. Third is resentment. Those who see themselves as helpless victims end up hating life itself. They believe life was meant to be easy and every hardship was thrust upon them unfairly. I never asked to come into this world. Life is a curse, they whine, yet they are too cowardly to end it. So their purpose becomes opposing those who are truly alive. Their value system inverts. Good becomes evil. Strength is mocked. Weakness praised. Wealth becomes theft, and theft becomes reclaiming what was always yours. These 3 roads have always existed and always will. You cannot stop others from walking them, but it is your responsibility not to.
And it really seems like those three paths are starting to be ingrained, or those three ways of thinking are starting to be ingrained in the Canadian national population. They've lost hope. This is why we left British Columbia. There was not a critical mass of individuals that were willing to stand together and vote for freedom and independence. Alberta still has that, and it has a core foundation, and it has religion at the forefront as well as the foundation to kind of ward a lot of that off, I believe.
But that's literally the path Canada is on. It's already what Canada has become. And if you don't see that, then you don't go outside too much, because it's evident when you go to any big city, any medium city, even any town now. It's insane. Even the nicer towns within British Columbia were also completely besieged by this and by the ideology and the resentment and by the egotistical maniacs too.
Yeah, and this is not just in Canada. This is across the West as a whole. The United States right now seems to be pushing back against a lot of it, but we're going to see what happens after Trump, because you're going to need another president after Trump to keep pushing back against this and try to restore the values that the West was founded on.
And first of all, thank you so much to, we'll go into comments and then we'll go to Alberta Personalities. But thank you so much to Christu on RUMBLE for gifting one subscription that KP for you got. So KP for you, please thank Christu for that. But now back to your comments. Todd says, find Grant Abram. I think he can help us with independence. We'll continue to look into it as well, because I do remember the name. I just didn't remember from where. Sean says, best soft serve ice cream in the USA is in federal prison. No joke. Maybe you can go there and tell us how it is. That one would be a bit harder to go.
I didn't know they had ice cream in federal prison.
Go get it. I mean, they need to have something. Pete says, fresh blacktop on the 22 Cowtown to Sundry, and don't forget awesome burgers at the Water Valley Saloon on the way home for
fantastic.
that roll up. Sean says the Canada Anti-Independence Group plays on the past and never talks about the future. Because there is no future, again, as Liam Out Loud was telling us, because they're already on this path, essentially a war path to destroy themselves and the nation that once was called Canada, there will be no future. There is no future for most of the young people, not right now in
There's
Canada.
actually no past as well. They want to erase the past. It looks like they're trying to put that on a hold right now and then lead into the past before they actually finish erasing this. They want to squash Alberta independence by leaning on what the past was and what Canada was. As soon as they feel like they're safe again, they're going to continue to rewrite the history books, put the flags that have masks, put the LGBTQ flag up instead of the Canadian flag or the Albertan flag, and they're going to continue to erase what Canada was. If you want to save what Canada was and save what the history of the West was, Alberta independence is the way forward.
Sean says the Laurentian elite aren't for gays or lesbians, they're for activists who take the name MMWG2SLGBTQQIIAA+. Thank you for that, Sean. But yes, exactly. Todd says the Canadian government are traitors to Canada. Well, they're the destroyers of Canada, so of course it's treasonous what they have done.
Absolutely.
They don't want to admit it.
Well, and the system favors them as well, meaning even if a Pierre Poilievre or a conservative gets into power, he's only going to be able to make minute changes. He's not going to be able to make the large structural changes that need to be made because the system itself is rigged against conservatives overall. He's only going to be able to get 4 years in there at most, I would think. And then on top of that, power is supposed to lie in the cities, the province, and then the federal government. The federal government's supposed to do very little. And if the conservatives get into power, I think they're going to respect that system, which is going to prevent them from making large structural changes like Mark Carney is doing right now with his majority government. This is not how the system is supposed to work. He was not supposed to win a majority government through floor crossers either.
Sean says, June 16th, happy anniversary. Thank you. 8 years of loving and tolerating each other. Pete says, I put myself in harm's way in the regular Canadian Armed Forces in the 80s. Thank you for your service. Says, I did it with pride and love for Canada. What Canada has become disgusts me. Especially if you fought forward and under the flag. That's why we need more voices like these and the one we just heard speaking up.
Yeah, and it's a shame because a lot of conservatives nationwide feel the same way and they don't feel like there's actually a way to change it. I mean, Poilievre and the conservatives are saying, just wait 3 years and vote harder. I don't even know if we vote harder, are you going to be able to win at that point? So many conservatives are fleeing the country by the hundreds of thousands on a yearly basis because they've lost hope in the country. Because Mark Carney now has the majority government, we see even more conservatives fleeing. They're losing that critical mass of people they even need to win a federal election. In Alberta, we have a critical mass of individuals that believe the citizens themselves can make the change, and that's what Alberta independence is.
Sean says, Capri is beautiful. Whatever happened there? You don't want to know. And again, I mean, evil and disgustingness has existed for a long time since those times. Saltios Maximus says, good save. Nat guy needs to start taking creatine for memory. It's been for hair, right? That's for like, creatine is for like bones and stuff like that. Right?
I got strong bones and I got plenty of hair.
Roger Arsenault says, hi everyone, congrats on your anniversary, Nat and Guy. Thank you so much.
And my memory has been getting better. I had mold poisoning for a long time when we left Canada because our apartment had mold in the walls and I didn't know it. And I was having a real foggy memory. My memory is still not as sharp as it used to be. And I often find myself forgetting words and things like that.
Like right now. Sometimes for me, it's just when I'm tired. Usually I'm pretty sharp. The Bilver said, except when I have to like translate something and then I want to say it in Spanish, but I'm trying not to, or vice versa. So then I stop and it looks like I just forgot the word in whatever language I'm trying to speak. Satius Maximus says, you need a guy walking around Parliament in Ottawa with a microphone asking people what they think about Alberta.
Yeah.
Maybe we can go.
People just need to start asking questions about Alberta to these politicians, period, and just see what their answers are.
Beaver Trucker, hello, says, I actually hope CUSMA, or the USMCA, doesn't go through and Trump doesn't sign any trade agreements with Canada. This country needs to be brought down to its knees before liberals wake up.
Yeah, I believe so too. But I think both paths right now that I think Trump will take, because I don't think Trump is going to renew the deal outright. He's either going to cancel the deal, which he's kind of indicated. I think Mark Carney's plan at that point is to declare a national emergency and federalize natural resources. But if Trump goes to a year-on-year review, that's even more devastating because a lot of companies that are headquarters in Canada, as well as manufacturing companies, can't have that kind of non-reliability of having a year-to-year review every year. So they will move to the United States, and that will also hollow out Canada. So I think any path Trump kind of picks right now is going to hollow Canada out one way or another. It's much harder for Mark Carney to justify federalizing natural resources without the cancellation of USMCA.
True. So it is that double-edged sword because, again, he could declare a national emergency if, and we've talked about that possibility. Again, it's pretty far out there, but would we put it past this insane banker? No.
Well, Canada has so many natural resources. If he just went hard because he has a majority government, and the rumors are he's going to have more floor crossers over the next couple months. But if he does have that with that majority government, and he just goes hard at natural resource federalization and starts approving projects and putting that money into federal coffers, there's enough natural resources there to rebuild Canada. Canada is the most wealthy natural resource country in the world, but he has to justify it to his base and Canadian citizens. The only way he can do that is if Trump cancels that USMCA, I believe.
And the truth, 999, saying the truth, saying Alberta independence, and yes, exactly. DeBilver says people won't until it's too late. If they ever do realize, I don't think at least living in Vancouver, I didn't see any hope in anybody really realizing what situation and circumstance they were actually in. They're being kept comfortable enough where they don't want to notice.
Yeah, there's no hope for the rest of Canada, except for Alberta. There still is a critical mass of individuals, and we're trying to push this thing forward, but we can't be overly nice about it. We can't accept a 3-year timeline from Danielle Smith and the federal government.
Or PP.
Yeah, this non-binding referendum is enough for us to declare unilateral independence, but we're going to have to take over the UCP after October 19th and get a leadership review and get a leader in there with balls and backbones that support Alberta independence.
And the truth again says, Alberta independence, we gone. Oh yes, we been gone. Saltius Maximus says, if you want to see, and this is really true, if you want to see who is in charge, look at what flag is flying.
Yeah.
What flag is flying right now? What season is it right now in Canada? And again,
rainbow season.
I just say they're using that as a mask, but still, it's a pretty ideological and insane mask. to be flying that. Sean says Trump is running into this very problem, an entrenched managerial ruling class embedded into government and NGOs.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I follow U.S. politics very closely. That's what he ran into in his first term, and it kind of froze him out. That's why he didn't do much in his first term. The second term, he was prepared for it, and he's pushing back, and that's why he's really pushing back using all of his executive powers that are legal for him to use. And there is actually quite a bit. The federal government and the judiciary was trying to take away the executive power over decade after decade, and they were trying to weaken the office of the president. But Trump has really claimed a lot of that power back. I think he's having a lot of success right now, not just in the United States, but globally. I think that's where he's having the majority of his success. And I think Carney's going to feel it after the midterms, especially if Trump wins the midterms or just stays where he's at on his power base.
And last one, just because it's important, Pete says, Guy regularly forgets that Nat is the boss. And I remind him of such often as well.
Sound like a feminist in there, Nat.
No. But now let's go into Alberta Personalities.
But they need to understand that Albertans are done, we're leaving, and there's no more conversation to be had. I know that's upsetting to people.
Let's start with Wide Awake Media saying, quote, in his January 2025 speech to the World Economic Forum, of course, Spanish PM retard Pedro Sanchez laid out the plan to use digital ID to end anonymity online under the guise of protecting minors from quote-unquote inappropriate content. I propose putting an end to anonymity on social media.
I brought this clip up because there's been a lot of think tank papers coming out of Davos to WEF over the last decade, but now they're actually implementing them. They're trying to take control of American social media companies through international regulations, as well as bring in a digital ID on the back of all this. So they're trying to make this a double win for them.
And when this clip initially came up, we said exactly this when he was saying this.
Well, and I will also say Trump is pushing back against us the best that he can. And this is why we need to follow Trump up with a J.D. Vance or somebody else that's going to continue to do the same thing. He has something called the Granite Act, which is pushing back against these international regulations, trying to capture American social media companies.
In his January 2025 speech to the World Economic Forum, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez laid out the plan to use digital ID to end anonymity online under the guise of protecting minors from inappropriate content.
I propose putting an end to anonymity on social media. In our countries, no one can walk the streets with a mask on their face or drive a car without a license plate. No one can send packages without showing an ID or buy a hunting weapon without giving their name. And yet, we are allowing people to roam freely on social networks without linking their profiles to a real identity. This paving the way for misinformation, hate speech, and cyber harassment. And it is allowing people to act without being held accountable for their actions. Such an anomaly cannot continue. In a democracy, citizens have the right to privacy, not to anonymity or impunity. That is why I believe we must push forward the principle of pseudonymity as the functioning element of social media and force all these platforms to link every user account to an European digital identity wallet. This way, citizens could use nicknames if they want, but in the case of a crime, public authorities would be able to connect those nicknames to real people and hold them responsible. Because accountability is not an obstacle to freedom of speech. It is an essential complement to it. One social media.
Who decides what a crime is? They do.
Well, you can
leave
it there. And I will say, when he gave that speech, there was a ton of pushback against it. The problem is now every country in the West is coming out simultaneously, giving that same speech and different aspects of it. And they think if they stand together and all give it at once and they all push at the same time, they're going to get American social media companies and the American government to absolutely not only bend, but break and give them regulatory control over free speech.
And in a mechanism they continue to use is allow the endangerment of children in a certain way, or at least let it pass to the point where people start asking questions and want something to be done and asking somebody to do something, please. So then they can come in as the superheroes and essentially put a noose around your neck and say, oh, but we're doing this to protect children. This is because you asked us to, because you're saying that this is dangerous. So now we're going to decide. Again, who decides what is a crime that they're going to go look after people once they're linked to this European digital ID wallet or global digital ID wallet, which is eventually what they want to do? They get to decide.
We need to get parental responsibility and parental control back. The pushback against the government needs to be, we need more parental rights, not the government being the parent, not only for under 16, but they want to be the parent for every single citizen. It's absolutely ridiculous at this point. An easy way to get this back is right now, both parents have to go off to work and there's nobody left to parent that child. So you put them into after school soccer, you put them into school, and these places become daycares, but they're infested with ideology and things like this. If we can have no taxes on citizens, especially in a country like Canada, 50% of your wage is being taxed. If you save that 50%, that allows one parent to stay home from work and potentially have a job that's an at-home job to bring in a secondary income if you need it, but you can actually be at home with the children. And that's what we actually need. We need parents at home with children again, but they can't because the way the society is set up, both parents have to go out to work, and a free and independent Alberta with no taxes on citizens can make those kind of promises.
Exactly, especially to the young people that are looking to start these families but don't see any hope in doing so within Canada, the way they're taxed and the way that the government treats not just them, but their children as well, and wants to essentially take over and appropriate their own children. And it's insane. You were saying it all becomes a daycare, essentially, because both parents are out to work. But even once we move to universities and even to jobs, they've also become daycares for adults, adult daycares, because people don't know how to manage themselves because they haven't had to, because they have daddy government and they think that they need daddy government for that safety, security, and they don't need freedom because freedom is pointless and it's scary. So let's not ask for freedom anymore. That's Canada in a nutshell. Lastly, Brett says, quote, breaks my heart. We will never see this run of Oliver Tree, only glimpses.
Yeah, and we talked about Oliver Tree yesterday. I forgot to bring a clip of him up, so I just wanted to bring a clip. A lot of people don't know who he is. Absolutely fantastic artist. I liked his music videos. If you haven't watched an Oliver Tree music video, fantastic music. And he was an independent artist for a long time, signed to a label. The label completely mistreated him, and then he was able to get independence back. And he was an independent artist making independent music, which was absolutely fantastic.
How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you guys? Isn't it crazy that we're both DJs now?
It's pretty
We're
cool.
done with the singing thing.
I'm out here. I'm out here.
You've been getting in shape.
No.
I'm making an album in hotel rooms. I got my computer, my microphone, and a little mini keyboard, and just making music by myself.
That's easy.
Kind of going back to what I wanted to do in high school, like making music for me and trying to be like, what do you think? And what do you want to hear? Like, what do I want to hear? And if it fails, it fails, but I have no pressure.
No outside influences. You do like it. You know what I mean? That's
freedom.
Happy.
Yeah.
That's what happy is. You want to do that.
Well,
and it's also great to see a lot of artists all the way from Diplo to right there T-Pain and a bunch of other ones paying their tributes and saying how great it was behind the scenes as well with Oliver Tree and the kind of artist and artistry he would bring as well.
Yeah, a lot of celebrities dying in helicopter crashes. Stay out of those helicopters if you're a celebrity, I guess.
Unfortunately, especially the ones that want, as he said, their freedom. But now let's go back to your comments and then to Alberta's Canada. Sean says, so Guy was talking about a highway or train from Russia to Alaska, through Alaska.
Yeah, I would say the best way to build it, there was talks about a bridge from Alaska to Russia for a long time, but actually having the boring company dig a tunnel, which there has been plans for that and talks about that as well. I would love to see that, and then it wouldn't be subject to the weather as much. But that would be the start of normalizing trade relations between America, Canada, and Russia, and from there you could repair relations with Europe and Russia as well. And that's the real relationship that needs to be repaired here, because that's where Europe was getting a lot of its cheap energy, and that's when they were able to build up their manufacturing and actually build products rather than just move around money and print money. Europe has nothing left at this point since they've started sanctioning Russia, and they're not willing to back off. They want to have World War III with Russia because they're seeing them and those $79 trillion of resources as their way out, as their lottery ticket. And if they can't have that, I think they want to unite with Canada and use Canada's natural resources.
And again, Sarah Palin could see Russia through her back doors. Through her yard, she would say. Todd says, put up 2 more signs on settler resident lawns today. Great. And again, we're getting that messaging out. As the guy, what was the name of the guy with the hat?
Oh.
Well, the guy with the hat that was talking to Alberta, and said it starts conversation. So just being able to even
Tommy
just
Temper.
Yeah, being able to just walk through and see that lawn sign might spark a conversation. You might not even be involved in it, but from people just walking around and seeing them. So it is great that those lawn signs are going up. So thank you, Todd, for doing that. And Todd says, and it was their idea, not mine. I just supplied the sign. And that's
fantastic.
Great as well. Also says, ripped out to the whistle stop for another 6-pack of signs, and they were all spoken for already. And it's great to see that there is this. And I think it helps also retain that confidence in, oh yes, let's put up those signs. Let's continue to do this. Let's go do the rollouts and let's continue to fly the blue flag, even if people tell us, oh, it's offensive or whatever.
Yeah.
They were trying to say. Hold on. Sean says we need control because anxiety. Exactly.
Well, in a lot of venues,
we just taught how to manage the anxiety.
We're having trouble finding venues, and then they're calling and they're complaining and they're making threats. Maybe we need to start looking towards independent churches and things like that have venues. We're going to have to start thinking outside of the box because we're not going to get approval for outdoor events. If we try to use regular venue places, they're going to call and complain and get the venue canceled. So we're going to have to get people that actually believe in Alberta independence that allow us to hold events in their spaces.
And also get creative. Again, the internet is in many ways free, essentially, so we can have events online too. Pete says, I have my beautiful blue flag flying on the front of my house. The last Amazon guy said, nice flag. Go figure. Good. And Sean asks, good question, says, why have we allowed Spain to be in NATO? We need to support the rightful free independent countries of Catalonia and the northern one, forgot the name. I am becoming guy. Oh no.
Well, and we actually showed the clip of, Jason Kinney, and he was talking about the independence movements within Spain. And then there was 2, and they said the way they solved it and the way we might want to solve Alberta independence is arrest the leadership. That was absolutely crazy. I'm surprised that clip did not get more play on the internet.
True.
And because as soon as he said it on stage, the girl that was hosting said, shh, be quiet. We're live streaming this. You can't say that. There's people from the independence movement watching.
Yeah, Catalonia, Basque Country, and País Vasco, exactly. Basque Country and Barcelona too, in a way. But Sean remembered and said a free Basque country. Sorry for the memory loss. It's okay. It's a hard one to remember. And okay, now let's go to Alberta's Canada, and then we'll continue reading the rest of your comments.
I'm angry. I've had enough of these people.
Let's start with elbows up. Ryan Gertison says, quote, another 700 jobs gone from Bell. Elbows up. And yeah, exactly.
Bell Canada's parent company, BCE, is cutting nearly 700 jobs. The company says the reductions represent approximately 1% of BCE's total workforce, affecting about 690 positions, including approximately 230 unionized roles, and that the move is part of organizational changes. Today's changes do not impact CTV's parent company, Bell Media.
And this is only the beginning.
Must be breathing a sigh of relief there.
This is literally the beginning. All these MOUs Mark Carney went around the world getting other nations to sign aren't trade deals. They're all hinged on one factor. They want access to the U.S. market through the USMCA. If that does not get renewed, nobody's going to sign a deal with Canada, period.
And again, that's we never wonder why all of these essentially oligopolies just continue to operate as well without being able to offer entry to the market to new companies that could offer more jobs but aren't allowed to.
Yeah.
Because of how Canada functions. National Post says the Liberals are using the excuse of protecting children to usher in an expansive censorship regime, writes Josh DeHaas. And again, it's exactly what they're doing.
And again, individual countries, especially in the West, want a digital ID for their citizens. This is the push they're making. This is the script they're trying to use. But more than that, the reason they're all doing it at the same time, they found they did not have success when they did it individually, like the gentleman from Spain. So behind the scenes, they've coordinated this to try to capture and take control of American social media companies, to take control of American social media companies and through regulations and things like that, because they do not want free speech in their countries anymore.
And because they get to decide what they get to censor, what becomes criminal, who becomes a criminal, and how they're able to go look for them and then manage them and their uncomfortable opinions, usually criticizing their governments.
Yeah. And then they can...
That's communism.
And you're seeing a lot of rigging of elections and things like that through censorship within the EU. That's the first thing they kind of went after.
The AFD.
Yeah.
Macron, not Macron, in France. Paris,
I can't remember her name. Let's continue on.
Marine Le Pen, there we go. They both start with them. But next, speaking of next, CBC Watcher says, quote, Ambassador Hoekstra repeats his own personal irritation with Canadians in his interview with Ellie. Again, Ellie Continental doing a great interview here as well. Says, when we watch the opening of the World Cup in Toronto and Canadians boo the American flag, really? Exactly. Really?
Yeah, and I want to try to get an interview with this gentleman. He has interviewed with a couple smaller content creators, and he's a heavy hitter within the United States, and he speaks plainly. So to ask him if we had a non-binding referendum, because we can't get a binding referendum from the Canadian government, well, what does he think the odds are of the United States recognizing Alberta as an independent country at that point? Would be a very interesting question to ask. Right now, it's only national Canadians that have interviewed him. People within the Alberta independence movement should reach out. We're going to try.
We do take notice of when we watch the opening of the World Cup in Toronto and Canadians boo the American flag. Really?
Concurrently, as in the UFC, all the Americans sang the Canadian national anthem. So you even have that dichotomy right there.
85% of your trade from the U.S. and across the border still comes across the border tariff-free. You have the second best trading relationship with anybody in the world of any country that the United States has trade relationships with. We have $2.5 billion of commerce going across the border each and every day. We are fighting on fentanyl, on crime, and all of these kinds of things. Very sadly,
and it shows how mismanaged the Canadian economy is. They have the second best deal in the world of any country with the United States, but because there's a few extra little tariffs put on, the Canadian economy is already starting to crumble. If this thing is canceled, it will be an absolute shambles.
It was a week ago that a Toronto police officer lost his life, going after some criminals, some serious folks that may have had something to do with the attack or, the shooting at the U.S. consulate. That's the kind of partnership that we have in law enforcement and military and these kinds of things. And you're going to boo the American flag? I think when the sound system and the singer lost her mic in Buffalo, and, the Canadians were playing the Buffalo Sabres or whatever, Americans started singing.
Yes, I remember that.
They started singing the Canadian. Anybody who touches defense.
And they did it at the UFC again. They sung the Canadian national anthem.
Recognizes the partnership that we have formed over the years. Canadians liberated my parents in the Netherlands and those types of things. They recognize, according to the words of your prime minister, that since the collapse of the Berlin Wall 37 years ago, this year is the first year that Canada has stepped up to start meeting its defense commitments, its military commitments.
Yes.
Okay. You think about it. That's a pretty striking statement. For 37 years, somebody's been carrying the water in terms of protecting Canada. And I think I know who that country is. And I don't necessarily, but I will go back to it. Okay. With that kind of a record, you're going to boo the flag that for 37 years, has provided the backstop to Canadian security and safety. And I know you were with us in Afghanistan and you've made other sacrifices, and we appreciate those each and every day. But for the consistent pattern of 37 years, it was American taxpayers, okay, that willingly, because they love Canada, that willingly paid for us to backstop Canada, okay? It was the distillers in Kentucky that make the bourbon and the whiskey They paid those taxes for 37 years that you now ban from being sold in Canada. Think about it. Really? Is that who you are? Is that what you want to be? That's not the Canadians that I know. So that's, really, you're going to, when somebody says you're,
and we'll continue it. Don't stop it. Mark Carney has been trying to sabotage this deal from the beginning. We've seen other trade negotiators come out and literally say they have been reaching out to the Canadians, and the Canadians have been non-responsive at many times. That Mark Carney is trying to weave this narrative like it's the Americans that are resisting it. It's not the Americans resisting this, but there is a fundamental shift in values from the Canadian government and a lot of other Western governments that they just don't want to deal with the Trump administration. They want to wait Trump out, and they're hoping they're going to get a better deal from the next president, who they're hoping is probably Gavin Newsom or another leftist ideologue.
Travel to the United States. That's right. We shouldn't travel to the United States because only 85% of our stuff going back and forth across the border is tariff-free. We're not going to go because we only have the second best deal of anybody in the world in trade with America. I don't, so those are some of the unfortunate things, but
and you can see he has a respect for Canada, but he also has a respect for fundamental Western and American values of free speech and other things. They want to make a trade deal, but they need Canada to cooperate with what fundamental Western values have always been. Canada has now turned its back on that, and they're not willing to make that trade deal if Western values are attached to those things, such as free speech, because they want to go in the opposite direction. They need to control their citizenry if they want to win future elections.
And again, go watch the full interview on Ellie Continental's YouTube channel. Very interesting as well. But I will say, once again, Canada continues and has become this petulant child, uneducated child that doesn't know or doesn't have any, is completely ungrateful. And that is becoming more and more obvious, not just to Americans, but also to some Mexicans. And around the world, I think the reputation has finally started to come down to reality of what the reality is of Canada and the Canadians that continue to support this retardation.
If they lose that USMCA, they're going to become a third world country real quick, and people are going to be in absolute shock.
More than they already are. Go to any big city.
Trump right now is twiddling around with the other 15% of goods that are outside of the USMCA, and the economy is starting to fracture at a core fundamental level. If he starts twiddling with the other 85%, it's going to be an absolute collapse.
Mm-hmm. But lastly, Northern Perspective says, quote, huge loophole. Carney's new, quote unquote, slave labor bill does not automatically target China. The prime minister gets to decide what goods, regions, countries, and producers go on the high risk list, the ones that are useful for him to be sold.
And again, this was a sensitive topic for the Americans. They should not be messing around with this. They're trying to show that they're cooperating, but behind the scenes, they're doing the absolute opposite. This is everything Mark Carney does. If he gets a lot of pushback on something from the conservatives and the actual citizens, he says, okay, I'll take it down. And then he just rebuilds the mechanism over here by a different name.
And again, while this is sold as a crackdown, Jolie, funnily enough, is in China courting Chinese EV makers that, again, will do nothing good for the Canadian auto economy.
Canada has some of the most rigorous forced labor laws in the world.
I believe there was a shipment that entered into a Canadian port in the province of Quebec that was temporarily halted, but it was then later released. And so my understanding is not a single shipment has actually been blocked or interdicted by CBSA. Is that your understanding too, Madame Meyerhofer?
Mr. Chair, that information sounds accurate to me.
This Liberal government only stopped 2 shipments in 5 years.
Canada has a very strong legislative regime against forced labor. We have been preparing ways to reinforce the regime that we have. We made some changes earlier this year on things that candidly were not as effective.
And Carney's right. They did make some changes to address this in the last year. One of the changes they made is they've been removing and cutting all the positions in the department that's actually responsible for stopping products with forced labor.
Legislatively, we'll be proposing that to the House in the coming weeks.
Slave bill loophole for China. Cabinet would gain exclusive powers to exempt China from a slave labor ban under a new Commons bill. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Bill C-35. This is what we're talking about here. And this is where we get to it, the list. Section 6, the minister.
And the whole reason this became an issue is because Trump made it an issue. This is a sensitive point, and it's not slave labor he's concerned about. It's actually China itself. And that's what they're trying to build the loophole here for.
May, not must, may By regulation, establish a list of goods in respect of which there are reasonable grounds to suspect that they are produced wholly or in part by forced labor. Specification. The minister must specify. So if there is a list, they must specify, but they don't have to create the list. The minister must specify in relation to goods on the list either the person who produces them or the country or region in which they are produced, or both. Disclosure of information. The following persons may, don't have to, may assist the minister in establishing the list referred to in Section 6, and for that purpose, the minister and those persons may disclose information
Okay,
to
and
one
you
another.
can leave it there. And this is just another example why I believe Mark Carney may be trying to sabotage the USMCA. There's at least a dozen other situations that are very similar to this where Trump has said, fix this. They said, okay, we're fixing it, and then have created loopholes behind closed doors.
As is usual for Canada to do. Okay, let's go back to your comments and then into Alberta and the world. Let me see where we were. Todd says, I'm running the American flag right now, 3x5 beside my Alberta independence flag. Because obviously. And Sean says, how many consulates are in Alberta? Need more. Yeah, especially now, especially as we move into actual independence. Todd says, make a bozos piddle themselves when I drive by. Good. And get them real angry as well, because they will be. Todd says, but get tons of waves and thumbs up, way more. That's good as well. Sean says, even the French part or the national anthem? No, I believe they just sang the regular one. Pete says, I hate to say it, but your average American is a far better person than today's average Canadian. We should bloody well be ashamed of ourselves. And I think that message specifically, and especially coming from a veteran like Pete, should be heard more and should be out there more. And I do plan on getting that messaging out there more as well, but I'm only one little person. So, but it's true. And again, that's what I saw living there as someone from the outside that had a completely different idea. And when I got there, a completely different version of Canadians than what I was confronted with when we left.
Absolutely.
And it's incredibly sad as well.
Well, and this is the thing. When you look at the trade minister from the United States, Alberta is far more ideologically aligned with the United States, and you can see a tariff-free trade deal. And I would expect Alberta to have the best trade deal with the United States of any country in the world, period. Because they have what America wants. And there's no reason, there's no ideological reason that's going to stand in Alberta's way from actually signing that trade deal.
Todd says, I cover my heart with my hat and stand when they fly that red, white, and blue, just like my daddy taught me. How about you?
Yeah.
And yeah, again, a lot of people, yeah. I'm not going to say it. Chris Calgary says, Canadians are so damn arrogant for no damn reason. It's embarrassing. And they keep running out of things to really be that as proud of and as arrogant as they are. Again, the healthcare system, if you really dig into it or ask them a few questions, because that's one of the few things that they will say, oh, Canada has free healthcare. It's so much better than the US. How is that healthcare working out for you? Let me know. Let me know how soon your maid appointment is. Sean says, Gavin Newsom probably going to be in prison eating the ice cream. Didn't you hear the news?
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit the other day, and I believe, it's the second story in Alberta and the World, which is the next section. So we're going to talk a little bit about Newsom in a moment. But it's him, his wife, his family. They're starting to dig in. Again, I said the other day, I don't necessarily know if I want Gavin Newsom to go down. There's rumors of outside candidates that would come up in his place. Now, if they take Newsom out and, it was Kamala Harris that rose up. Actually, Kamala Harris is the #1 candidate when polled right now. So she's very likely to be the candidate, but I would expect somebody to come out from left field, a Trump-like figure for the Democrats. And like somebody that's non-political.
Yeah. Pete says, during my time in the forces, the Americans hosted us consistently. We respected one another and had the values that have kept this world together since Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
And that many that didn't have to go fight those wars and that were safe at home and didn't have to do much forgot about because they didn't have to think about it. Okay, let's go back into the other comments. The Truth says, I'm not buying what he's trying to sell. Saltius Maximus says, misinformation. The government is a large source of fake news. They just want control. What? Spider? Ah, what is that? There's a bug next to me. Sorry, Saltius. Saltius Maximus says, misinformation. The government is a large source of fake news. They just want control. Exactly. And hold on. Casey Willis, hello. Thanks for being. Oh, thank you.
Happy
Casey
anniversary.
Willis says, Central Hive Authority. Everyone else is a drone. And Beaver Trekker says they can't rule the world under the WEF. If people have guns, religion, and freedom of speech, they ban our access to communicate. We can't ban together.
Listen, Trump's pushing back.
Or organize.
Trump's pushing back. I understand a lot of people in the EU don't like him, or in Canada don't like him, but he's giving breathing room for citizen movements to rise up. We're seeing people in the EU be able to push back right now because the funding of a lot of these NGOs and other things through USAID has been cut off. They're having a tough time with these citizens uprising right now and voting and voicing their opinions online. The online space is becoming very powerful. A lot of this is thanks to Trump. So, and if Alberta succeeds, it's going to be because of Trump too. And I think after the midterms, he's going to have a big push against Canada.
Celsius Maximus says Alberta should use the Boring Company to go under BC and pop up to an offshore fueling station so BC can't be involved. And so they have no say as well. I mean, could be. Della Robinson says get the police involved if there's threats. Exactly. We don't need the government involved. And again, we don't need them deciding what constitutes a threat and doesn't. There's already laws for that in the books. Celsius Maximus says Canada without its usefulness will become the new hermit kingdom, and says Marco Rubio needs to go to Alberta. Maybe that can be his next job. And John Robinson, hello, says digital ID, then central bank, digital currency, facial recognition, track you like your lab rats, and control you too.
And we talked about this the other day, and digital ID and digital currency has been one of the big topics that we talked about before Alberta independence. A very censored issue, though, I will say. But when you do the analysis on it, nothing else is possible. Not a social credit score, not a digital currency, not any of the other dozen things they want to implement in the digital space without a digital ID. They need the digital ID. Everything else is layered on top of that. If we can stop a digital ID, we win, period. If they get their digital ID, we may have small victories after that where we can push back, and then they'll push back. But it really lies, if we can stop a digital ID, we can stop the mainframe from being erected around us.
That's why it's so, again, important to not let it get through that first step and not believe the whole, oh, we're trying to protect children thing. Cindy Melnick says, I've never disrespected my American friends and neighbors. I have family and friends in the USA.
Yeah.
And most Canadians do. That's the
and
thing.
I was born in Canada, and I was raised half and half. So half of my young life, I lived in Canada. Then I moved to the States after my mother died. Then I moved back to Canada when I was a lot older. So I've lived literally half and half. Now I live in Mexico, but I absolutely love America. All of my freedom values that I'm fighting for Alberta with now have actually been instilled with me the time I was raised in America. It definitely was not instilled in me in Canada, because it's a bunch of freaking sheeps in Vancouver where I lived when I was in Canada.
Complacent people.
Yeah.
But now let's go to Alberta and the world. See how they're doing. Let's start with this from Adam Sejna saying, quote, the goal is clear, remigration must happen. I will do my best to help everyone who wants to see a safe, prosperous, and stable Europe for future generations.
And I'm just profiling him to show people are uprising within the EU right now, and that's why they want to buckle down on censorship. They can't stand free voices standing up. This is just one guy, but there are thousands of people like this within the EU, within Canada, within Alberta, and Trump has given that breathing room to these citizens to speak up because he cut off a lot of the funding. All that funding was coming through USAID. They don't realize how many hundreds of billions of dollars in funding to European NGOs were going into there.
And again, young person, I might add. And we need more young people to speak up because, again, they've been scared not to.
Good afternoon. My name is Adam Shena, and I am a Czech patriot who fights for the freedom of his country. In the first year of my work, I've built one of the biggest patriotic movements in Czech Republic, and my messages generated tens of millions of views across social media. I was the only person in Czech Republic who was able to show to the masses how corrupt and false is our biggest activistic group called Millions of Moments for Democracy, which is ironic because everything they do is against our democratic values. And it is funny that I was the person who publicly shamed their leader in the biggest TV shows where people debate in Czech Republic by handing him a constitution of our country and reminding him that democracy is for everyone. As the result of my actions, I am now being escorted from every single leftist demonstration we have in Czech Republic, which is of course not democratic. My movement became so powerful that they are now trying to take it away from me, which is not good, but every attempt on trying to silence me is only making my voice stronger and louder. More people are recognizing me in the streets because even though they do not have to agree with me, they understand that trying to take away somebody's freedom of speech is not the democratic way to end somebody's career. And that's the reason why I'm so powerful with my messages. And that is the reason why I will never stop recording and sending my messages to the world. And I have to continue in Europe because Czech Republic is located in the greatest continent on this world, which is called Europe. And if we are not going to save it, we will not have a safe place to live anymore because Europe is under a big attack. And it is crucial for every single one of us who were born here to fight for it and to defend it. So help me God. I will make Europe safe again, and I will make Europe great again.
And we can leave it there. And you are seeing a huge rise of patriots within the European continent, and they have a long history. So if they start really leaning on that history, especially when the European governments are trying to erase that history and erect the global foundation within Europe itself, it's good to see a pushback happening there, but they have a hard road ahead of them because of the level of censorship already instituted there.
But also seeing the younger people realizing that their future and their legacies are at stake and finally speaking up, standing up. I mean, Nick Shirley also uncovering a bunch of corruption in Minnesota and others as well. I will include Lumpin Ellie as well, who, I mean, started this whole media career all by himself, basically, and has pushed forward and now is getting interviews with Hoekstra, for example, asking important questions. So all of these and encouraging these people to also continue to speak out. And I do see some within Canada, or more national Canada, doing the same, but I don't know how. There's not enough backing behind that. It's still, I think, because of the indoctrination we're seeing in universities and in places of education.
Okay, let's go into Gavin Newsom now. And this has been boiling up to the surface over the last few days quite a bit.
Wall Street Apes, do you want me to read it all?
No, you can actually just go right down to the clip. I think it explains most of it.
It says, quote, Gavin Newsom and his wife are officially under investigation by the DOJ, the Department of Justice.
Now Spencer Pratt has put Newsom on notice, telling him you're never going to be president, that he has nothing but time for the next 3 years to ensure that it doesn't happen. His team of 70 lawyers, these are his neighbors whose houses burned too, in case you didn't know, they're all working together, and Newsom is the spokesperson for the whole operation. They found the office of the first partner, who is run by Newsom's wife. So instead of clearing the brush in Topanga that would have prevented the fires in the Palisades, they donated their money to themselves. Over $5 million has been donated to the office of the first partner. Again, that's his wife and him. They've been stealing from California. This is just the beginning. This is why I think all of a sudden we have Harris coming out of nowhere saying she's not going to be the governor. She's actually going to run for president, because at the end of this, Newsom could be done. If they are able to get all the information on Newsom out, he may be done. And I love that he told him, dude, I'll make sure you never become president, because it's that whole team of lawyers saying, we'll make sure you'll never become president.
Gavin Newsom is being investigated by the DOJ, and he's saying that he's being targeted by Donald Trump because he made some mean tweets against him, but that's not actually true. What's really happening with this investigation is him and his wife have an NGO called the Representation Project. His wife has taken $1.8 million in salary and then sent $2.1 million more to her production company. The only problem is that this NGO is funded by Gavin Newsom political donors. Now, this isn't the first time something like this has happened. Gavin Newsom has been caught sending money to his wife's NGO many times. Gavin Newsom and his wife received more than $700,000 from PG&E. $300,000 of that was sent to his wife's NGO. Now, let's look over here. Gavin Newsom has a long history of stealing money from taxpayers. Actually, the Pacific Palisades Fire, he set up an NGO and then used Act Blue to take in their donations. That means that every donation that was sent in, Gavin Newsom and Democrats got a piece of that money. They got a percentage of it.
Surprise? No.
Well, and it might be a blessing in disguise that they tried to steal this election from Spencer Pratt, because now he's going directly after Gavin Newsom, who is the major candidate for 2028. I mean, it would be a godsend if they had to run Kamala Harris. I fully don't expect Kamala Harris to be the candidate. That would be a guaranteed loss. There is no way. She can't speak 2 minutes on camera. That being said, it could lead way to some black horse candidate kind of coming out out of nowhere. Right now, the Black Horse candidate is the sports commentator. What's his name again? Oh, Stephen A. Smith. His name's being floated, but somebody like him could kind of come out of nowhere, much like Trump came out of nowhere for the Republican Party. And he doesn't have a candidate like that wouldn't have all that extra baggage of being a politician and having a track record like a Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris.
True.
So,
but I will say again, it is great to see Spencer Pratt actually doing good on his, and I believe will continue to do good on his promise of, oh, you messed with the wrong LA guy.
Well, and speaking of Gavin Newsom, he had he's got a podcast where he invites a lot of good debating right wingers on, and he really does hold his own. As much as I don't like him, I lived in California for a long time, so I follow Gavin Newsom a lot. As much as I don't like him, he has prepared himself and done the hard work to make himself the best candidate for the Democrats in 2028, meaning he knows how to do long form content. He knows how to deflect when he's in a debate with, he invited Ben Shapiro on, he invited Charlie Kirk on. They all try to go directly at him, and he could deflect it off himself fairly successfully. So even though I don't like the guy, he probably is their strongest candidate right now.
But now let's go watch the other side, or the other potential candidate, JD Vance, go into
this was fantastic.
Nest of harpies.
I just grabbed one clip from here. I just grabbed one clip from here, but there is a ton of clips from this interview they did.
They did not know what to do. Nick's orator says, quote, JD Vance is not allowing the View liberals to use children of illegals for propaganda, or many other things as well. But let's just watch this bit. And the View is pretty annoying, so...
I'd like to pick up on this theme because I think it's really important. We do have to strike a balance, of course, between enforcing our laws. We don't want to dehumanize people. That is the balance that, look, law enforcement, what I'd say about this, law enforcement is always inherently not a very pretty process, especially when you're dealing sometimes with violent people, with people who are resisting arrest. Some of the people that I've been told by the media were completely peaceful, had never violated any laws. You actually look into the record and you find out that those people were actually being violent, or they did have a criminal record. They had a sex trafficking conviction.
Don't have criminal records. So the majority of people that ICE is rounding up and taking out of their homes from their families, they're separating families. They're using children as bait. But the majority are not criminal.
But when I respond to that, you can say this. Okay, so you talk about the children. Here's what I'd say. Do we know that during the last administration, we had tens of thousands of children who were sex trafficked by the cartels, who were brought into our country in profoundly dangerous and predatory conditions?
Let's talk about this administration.
But here's the point. Unless you enforce the border, you invite that kind of conduct. You think that our immigration policies are inhumane based on the reporting of one person with a political bias. What I'm telling you is that it's inhumane to allow cartels to sex traffic people across our border. And by the way,
please hold on.
I appreciate that. Let me get you back, Anna.
We're coming back with more.
And he was running circles around those girls all day. It was fantastic. And if he's not the candidate, I mean, I guess it needs to be him and Rubio, but he needs to be the primary on this thing. He's a fantastic debater. He's good in long format as well. So, yeah. We'll kind of leave it there.
I know. There's another clip where Whoopi Goldberg is trying to talk about how history is being removed from the museums, and it's the complete opposite. Again, confession through projection. But we can play more of those tomorrow, maybe. But let's go back to your comments and then to RUMBLE. Sean says, Nat, don't come to Oregon. Bugs are freaking huge here. No interest, but thank you. The human bugs are weird too. Pete says except for you, Sean, of course. Pete says the street glide is out of my commission for a few weeks, but I may just don the rain suit and take the Beamer up to Sundry on Saturday. The Flagstaff is movable.
Fantastic.
Yes. And Sean says there are thieves and have been for a long time. Yes. Todd says con peoples. Exactly.
Yeah.
And Sean says Kamala is running 10 points ahead of Newsom before this news about Newsom.
And that's what, when this thing came up with Newsom, I was shocked when I looked at the polling. I'm shocked that Kamala Harris was 10 points ahead and she's the primary front runner. That makes no sense to me. If they run her, that's the end of it. I think they know that as well. Yeah.
Sean says Spencer Pratt makes me proud to be from Los Angeles. Same for you.
I wouldn't say, I mean, I like the guy. It's just a shame how they stole it from him. Yes. So you have to be ashamed. I'm still ashamed of Los Angeles, the way they stole that election from him. Absolutely ridiculous.
Todd says JD's right and they're all wrong. Simple and easy. Exactly.
Well, and he showed it in a calm, cool, collective way. Rubio's on there. It's going to be much more confrontational. That's exactly what you need. That's going to appeal to a lot of liberal women, though, that are watching that thing.
But Rubio is Latino, so I mean, they can't really go that hard at him, or they'll disrespect their own DEI principles. Pete says something's wrong coming to the U.S. and Canada legally. Good Lord. Exactly. And Sean says that luckily he's not an Oregonian, and says, guy makes me proud to be from Los Angeles. Thank you. Well, you weren't really LA. You were the OC, right?
I lived in Long Beach for a long time.
I don't really know where any of these places are, but I just know that part. Let me find a few last comments. Neil Roberts says Carney is the #1 salesman for Alberta independence. And again, we do have to thank him for that in a way.
Yeah.
Twisted way. Del Robinson says the USMCA is gone, and then so is Canada. Exactly. And says Gavin Newsom is the nephew of Crazy Nancy. Is he? Pelosi?
What?
Is he a nephew of Pelosi?
I believe
Or another Nancy?
No, yeah, Nancy Pelosi. And that's why, actually,
how did they not know that?
how the political power works in the United States, there's actually two main factions of the Democratic Party. Nancy Pelosi runs the old faction of the Democratic Party, and then there's the AOC wing, although the power base isn't with AOC, it's with other people behind the scenes, or the more woke radical wing. Nancy Pelosi actually controls where the real power lies in the Democratic Party. That's why Gavin Newsom is almost guaranteed to be anointed for the 2028 election unless he's disqualified through this investigation.
You're looking at the wrong camera.
Oh, okay.
Sean says, that's where I am from, guys. San Pedro by marriage.
Oh, fantastic.
But now let's go to RUMBLE, and there's a few stories there. So follow us there. Before you do, though, please don't forget to subscribe here. It really does help. Hit that like button. That also really does help. And we'll see you tomorrow again at 12 p.m., 12 noon Mountain Time, because we had to change the time again tomorrow. So we'll see you there. If not, we'll see you on the replay. But let's head over to RUMBLE 30-second wait screen.
Let's get ready to